But before we get there, can I just acknowledge how on point your fear is? Because here's the thing, and I think this is maybe why it is such a widespread, I don't know if I can call it a virus, I don't know if I can call it a disease, but whatever it is so widespread because it is based on critical thinking. Okay, your brain is working when you are in fear of visibility mode. What do I mean by that? Visibility equals vulnerability. Let me say that again. Visibility equals vulnerability. I want you to become analytical. Don't just stop at the mindless scrolling and comparison and feeling bad, right? The thing that is useful is leaning in and asking yourself some really provocative and helpful questions. All of the links are in the show notes if you're really serious about getting this work done. That will move you from comparison to using that charge that you feel, that attraction that you feel towards this person. How can you turn that into leverage to overcome the fear of visibility? I'll say it again. How can you use this attraction, you're pulled in by this person, by the force of whatever looks shiny in your life, and what you see as like, oh my God, and you're comparing yourself. You're listening to Madam Speaker Says, your no fluff cheat code to becoming the voice everyone listens to. I'm your host, Machochodi. If you've been waiting for a permission slip to straighten your crown and take up space like you invented the blueprint, Madam Speaker Says got you covered. No whispers, no apologies, just you, me, and some bold ass moves. Let's get into it. Hi, you are listening to Madam Speaker Says, and I'm your host, Machochodi. I'm so excited to welcome you here today, especially because today we are going to unpack something that affects 75% of all Americans, okay? And I would suffice it to say that, okay, the stats are specific to America, but girl, this is a global pandemic kind of situation. We're talking about something that folks are struggling with in not necessarily silence, because once I tell you what it is, I think you will resonate. You're probably part of the 75%. And yet the statistics are really strange because 75% of people are sitting somewhere and just silently suffering through this. Only 8% of folks who self-describe this way actually go on to get help. This particular podcast, I'm telling you, this video is going to change some of that for you, right? Like my promise and what I'm here to offer some value around is to start unpacking why it is that so many of us, dun dun dun, drum roll, the 75%, why we suffer from this fear of public speaking. 75% of adults in the United States suffer from some kind of speech anxiety, and this shows up in ways that are really expensive. Of course, it shows up all over the place in your social life, but professionally, and especially if you're a leader, if you're the person who runs your own company, you're a founder or you're an executive, or maybe you are a coach. If you're in any of those buckets, you might recognize that your fear of not just public speaking, but really it's a fear of visibility, keeps you playing small and keeps you from doing some of the critical work that you know you need to do to raise your organization to the next level. What am I talking about? Well, research has found that a lot of entrepreneurs specifically who tick the box when it comes to what's called glossophobia, right? The fear of public speaking. But what I'm interested in is much bigger. This idea that sometimes it's harder for us to step into visibility. What research finds and what researchers have found is that those entrepreneurs are more likely to put off marketing efforts. They are more likely to push away from anything that has to do with them stepping into the public, right? Them having to be seen. And you know, it costs something to your business, but I want to talk about some of the tools in this podcast that you can begin using to counter the kind of almost attack that you feel sometimes, right? Around this anxiety of speech and this anxiety of being seen. But before we get there, can I just acknowledge how on point your fear is? Because here's the thing, and I think this is maybe why it is such a widespread, I don't know if I can call it a virus, I don't know if I can call it a disease, but whatever it is so widespread because it is based on critical thinking. Okay, your brain is working when you are in fear of visibility mode. What do I mean by that? Visibility equals vulnerability. Let me say that again. Visibility equals vulnerability. Let me tell you a little story. I went to the school that was super posh and very old school in that it modeled itself on old style. There's the airplane going over. I hope the sound makes it. But I went to the school in Potchefstroom in South Africa. That's a very old school. We really care about fancy things, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're very British, even though we're in the South African savannah, very, very far from the UK, honey. But never mind, they cared an awful lot about training us into being these proper little English girls, princesses or roses or whatever you want to describe it. And one of the things that I remember that stands out from that school is discipline and how important that was, right? Again, we're talking about British boarding school manners and everything that goes with what you think about when you think about Harry Potter. I haven't seen Harry Potter, but I think it kind of goes with a theme here of kids that are in uniform and kids that are very regimented in terms of schedules that are controlled, and everything is just accounted for, including what do you do with your time off. One of the things that I did with my time off, I was part of the choir. Don't laugh. I was part of the choir, and actually I really, really loved being part of this whole. And what was beautiful about being part of the choir is you don't have to have an amazing voice yourself. I don't know that I would describe myself as somebody with an amazing voice at all. Singing, I enjoy to sing, and I love singing in a choir because you kind of blend with everybody else's voice, and it does make an elevated sound. And one term, we had these students visiting us from Slovenia, which, if you recall, Slovenia was just coming out of communism right around the same time, around 1994, that South Africa was coming out of apartheid. So these teenagers came to our school. They were also in a school choir, these girls. And I forgot to mention, my school was all women. It was an all girls school, part of like the thing. And you know, we became really fast and furious friends. We're singing together. We also, I remember we learned a song that was in Slovenian. I cannot, if I try really hard, I might be able to recall some of the, you know, either the melody or the words that went with that Slovenian song. And they did this beautiful thing. I can see the girls in my head. I can literally see them in my head doing the steps to the song, right? That we taught them. And the song was actually, if I'm not mistaken, in Zulu or something. So it was also a stretch for them. We very quickly, they were there for a couple of days, and we formed this bond between us that was very sweet, and the kind of thing that makes sense when you're together for an intensive amount of time and you're doing something that's shared. Long story short, something happened over the course of their long weekend or those days being with us, where one of the Slovenian students had something go missing of theirs, right? And I will never ever forget, we always used to have morning assembly. And for most people, if you went to a school in a place like South Africa or on the continent, you probably know how important and official morning assembly was. Everybody's standing there in their school uniform. All of the teachers are at the very front and they're facing us. And, it just has this charge of, we are here to set you off for the day, but you better be on your T's and Q's, or however you say that saying. The principal made this announcement that, hey, something has gone wrong because one of these kids is missing. I can't even remember what the thing was that had happened, and this kid was missing something critical, right? And all of the attention was obviously on the choir, but I remember specifically me, Mahodi, I was called out. Like, she called me out by my name because she recognized me as one of the leaders within the choir. And also I was just that kind of person who was really visible within my form, as we called it. And I ended up having to take the slap in the face for this thing that happened. Not that I had personally done anything, but I was representative of everybody who was being accused of, like, where the fuck is this person? And like, you should be, like, somebody needs to be held accountable, so you're going to be the one. So I ended up being like this little lamb who was made an example of, called to the front of the assembly and berated by the principal. Never mind, like, I didn't do anything. I'm just standing there like, okay, this is awkward. The point of me sharing this story, and I know you have your own story that resonates, is think of all of the times that you have stood out. Whether it's because you were the leader, right? So you volunteered, you raised your hand, or something about you made people look at you as, this is the one who is responsible, and that meant you were sticking your neck out further. Think about all of the times when you were different, and so just by virtue of entering the room and existing, you already stuck out like a sore thumb. And guess what? That visibility, that spotlight on you, made you more vulnerable than everybody else who was just, going about their business, being like the rest of the pack, another white little sheep. And here your ass comes, total black sheep. You stand out. Visibility makes you vulnerable, which is why you are smart and your brain is protecting you, because your brain's job is always to go into that reptilian place and be like, homie, nope. This, like, we gotta take cover. We're not going to have our neck out and have it stamped on with a guillotine. Like, no, we're going to protect you. That is what your brain is supposed to do, which is why you go into fear mode, which is why you are likely scared of visibility, right? But the thing about visibility that is also very complicated, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a coach, if you are the leader, if you are an executive, the thing about visibility is it's also where opportunity lies. I remember listening to Roxane Gay. And if you don't know, Roxane Gay is this super world famous global feminist superstar. And she's also a writer. That's really how she has gained this kind of visibility. And she's talking about before she became the famous Roxane Gay, who has been on every major stage, TED, women conferences, everything, New York Times, bestseller list, she's been there, right? And she was talking about how she would look around her at all of these women who really were not saying anything that was that much smarter than what she privately knew. But the difference between them and her is they were doing the work. So this is before she put out any of her books. And when she got really honest with herself, what she said is it helped her get clear on what she needed to do, right? So the difference wasn't because they were smarter, the difference is that they were more visible. And because they were more visible, they were getting the kinds of opportunities that Roxane was sitting over there and totally salivating over and being like, but like, make it make sense. Like, I know I have better theories. I know I've studied this harder. I know I could like totally demolish the game culture-wise if I was given half of the opportunities that this person is being given, nilly-willy. So make it make sense. But like, have you done the homework? Have you sat down hours and hours and poured yourself into those books? That's my question for you, okay? You... Let me just back up here and say something that may make you a little bit uncomfortable. The person and the people that you find yourself comparing to on social media, and especially in your industry, who are also experts, who are also playing in your lane. No, they're not better than you, but they are better than you in that they are willing to show up and be seen. And the work that you need to do, the thing that you need to get over, is all of those voices in your head that tell you nobody cares. This is stupid. Like, why would anybody want to listen to me? All the things that tell you, oh my God, what are people going to say? However you're being judged, yes, you are valid, because like we said, visibility makes you vulnerable. But I want to also remind you, the only way to opportunity is more visibility. It is the path. The more visible you are, you might not like it, but think about the Kim Kardashians. Oh gosh, what's happening? My love bubble just came apart. My necklace, if you're listening. There we go. I just put it back on. And where was I? You might not like this about the Kardashians, but admit it to yourself. The amount of attention that they have gotten and the amount of visibility that they've gotten, both from starting out with that show, right, that was like clocking them around the clock. And you might not agree with that particular form of visibility. You cannot deny from an analytical business point how much that visibility translated into not just opportunity, but real dollars in their bank, right? And some would even argue them being seen as a type of thought leader, as a type of famous expert. And I'm not saying you need to become another member of the Kardashian clan. If that's your thing, no heat, no judgment, but I am here to say, make the connection in your head between visibility and opportunity. See what is happening, and I want you to think about that in relation to the people that you may be comparing yourself to, either within your industry, either within your area of expertise, or maybe just folks that you're following on social media and you're totally salivating over the combination of their lifestyle and the career that you want. What I want you to do, and this is where visibility can get really interesting, and going back to what Roxane Gay offered, is I want you to become analytical. Don't just stop at the mindless scrolling and comparison and feeling bad, right? Like, that's not particularly useful. The thing that is useful is leaning in and asking yourself some really provocative and helpful questions. I have a guide, a visibility guide that you can download. All of the links are in the show notes if you're really serious about getting this work done. That will move you from comparison to using that charge that you feel, that attraction that you feel towards this person. How can you turn that into leverage to overcome your fear of visibility? I'll say it again. How can you use this attraction? You're pulled in by this person, by the force of whatever looks shiny in their life, and what you see as like, oh my God, look at the opportunities that they have, right? And you're comparing yourself. Maybe you're not even comparing yourself. Maybe this is somebody that you look up to in your industry. I want you to make a short list of 3 experts who are in your line, right, of work, who are like also working in your lane. And they can be somebody who you're comparing yourself to constantly. It can also, like I said, be somebody maybe who's your mentor, somebody that you look up to. It can also be a huge leader, like Jacinda Ardern comes to mind, and how much of a total baddie she is, former Prime Minister of New Zealand. She would definitely be on my short list. I want you to come up with a short list of 3 people who have opportunities that you want, and you see the connection between those opportunities and their visibility. Make that short list and become really, really serious about studying them. The guide that you're able to download, again, all of the notes are in show, and it's completely free, I should mention that as well, will walk you through how to analyze and how to study these people and their platforms, this group of 3, so you can get really clear about what is it that they're doing that I'm not, right? What is it that they're doing to leverage, like how are they leveraging their platforms? How are they storytelling? And how are they showing up and allowing themselves to be seen in ways that I may still be shying away from? again, I want you to channel Roxanne Gay here and just start getting very curious. What are they doing that I am not doing, given I want to get to where they are? Got me? Now, after you've done this analytical work, I want you to start paying attention to patterns between these three people. On purpose, we're looking at a group because one person is not going to do it exactly perfectly, and one person, the way that they're doing it, may not necessarily resonate with you and your style. So start teasing out patterns in these three, right? And when you're teasing out the patterns, I want you to think about what's missing here. People, yes, are offering something and they're being seen, but is there a different kind of person who is not being seen? Are there stories that are missing from the attention that's already out there, right? From how people are already being seen, these experts? Are there not just stories, but are there experiences that you can point out that you're like, they're not talking about this one particular experience? And to go back to Roxanne Gay, you know, when the folks who you are comparing yourself to are not people that you necessarily even respect or think are the best in the industry, for sure, there are ways that you would improve on what they're doing that's different from how they're doing it. So I want you to be really serious and write that down, right? Like, you're so mad at like, oh my God, I can't believe this fool is being quoted by the New York Times and they're the one being called as an expert. Cool, stay mad. But can we go a little bit deeper and actually write down what's missing in that article? What are the points that this expert failed to mention that are critical, that are making you mad, right? Like, go for the fear. You're feeling something, like, put it down on paper. Like, how would you have answered that differently? I want you to get super crystal clear about the patterns that you see. And then, and this is the final step, I really want you to hone in on you. What's the overlap between the patterns that you're seeing and the places where your expertise shows up? So again, to go back to the pieces that are missing in the expertise, right, that you see as highly visible, that's one place where the overlap is happening. But another place where the overlap may be happening is, what are you drawn to? You know, what platforms, what stories, what examples, what testimonies from working with clients, what are you drawn to that these people and the work that you've just done in identifying their patterns, it points that out, like it's bringing that out of you, where you're repeatedly being like, but I'm really drawn to X. I want you to write that down, and I also want you to write down your unique skill set. What is it about you that is completely different? And don't put pressure on yourself to make it like, oh my God, now I've got to become like some kind of Martian, right? Like, come up with something no human being on earth has ever. But just lean into your strengths. Lean into the things that you know you're really good at, the things that your friends and your colleagues look to you for. Lean into that and put that in writing as, here are the strengths that I have as a leader and as an expert. Now, I want you to synthesize all of this and use it as your visibility roadmap, okay? Let me see my notes here, because I do have some notes. I want you to think about what's different. I want you to go back to Roxanne and channel those comparisons so that you can be the kind of expert who is more visible, right? We're going to use this as a roadmap to help you lean into your visibility. And how are we going to do that? There's a second part. This is a 3-part training. So if you listen in next week, we're going to take some of the visibility work that we're talking about here now, overcoming that fear, and start turning that into something that is actionable, right? By the end of this 3-part series, I really want you to become more comfortable in front of an audience. And an audience can be here in front of a camera, like me right now. An audience could be you in front of a really big auditorium. But listen, an audience can also be sitting at a round table like this one with your necklace, doing all kinds of, oh my God, this necklace is doing things. It can also be you sitting at a desk like this with somebody who is a really critical stakeholder on the other side, and you are sweating something serious because you need them to see you in your vulnerability, to connect with you and your stories in a way that's really authentic. How do you allow yourself to be seen? That work takes so much self-possession, and it definitely takes more than just listening to this podcast. I will be fair and say that. It is the type of work that takes deep coaching, deep self-reflection, deep self-awareness, and also an ability to try and to fail in real time. So those are some of the things that we'll tease out in our following training. I really hope you stick around for the full 3-part series that is all around how do you become a better storyteller, and how do you lean into your strengths and overcome your fear of visibility. Again, this is work that goes bone deep. And next week, when we talk about going to the root of where some of these fears come from, you'll really begin to unpack. Like, this thing is layered. It's not just like, oh, I'm just out here floating, like I just don't want to do my marketing job, I'm just like a procrastinator. No, this comes from some really deep stuff, and our work is about unpacking that. And if you're interested in how do you do that with support, with a coach, this is exactly the kind of work that I do. You know, I help coaches, creatives, entrepreneurs, especially women of color who own businesses. I help those folks to go from unknown brilliant person who is just sweating away and doing so much work with the receipts to a famous expert. How do you become a famous expert within your lane? That's the work that I do. I help you with everything from thinking about your signature talk. Do you have a signature talk, right? So when you are starting to get a little bit sweaty from the heat of visibility, you can lean into a story that feels natural and is authentic. It is from your lived experience, but doesn't feel like you're overexposing yourself. How do you do that? I can help you work through that. I can help you craft that signature story. I can also help you think about a book that is a marketing strategy, but is also a way for you to connect deeply with your audience and to connect your brand story with your personal journey and where you've been. It doesn't even only have to be a book. I recognize, okay, not everybody's reading these days, but they do read articles, they do consume video. How do you show up on those platforms and use your signature story again to connect with your audiences? Of course, it's also work like getting ready for a really big meeting, or maybe you're giving a TED talk. Maybe you are pitching to investors and you need to go beyond just your technical proficiency to really helping them see you as a human, right? And not just a human, but as somebody who is just like them. Because guess what? Investors are super biased and they give to people who they recognize some pattern of themselves in those folks. So if you're interested in that kind of work, if you would like coaching to step into your famous expert era, to stop hiding your brilliance, I am that girl. All of my contacts and details are in show notes, but I specifically want to call out the summer short story intensive that I'm offering. This is one-on-one intensive coaching for you if you're really serious about diving deep into this kind of work. And again, applications close pretty soon on August 18. If you would like to see if we're fit for one another, I don't work with just anybody and I also have limited slots. So if you're interested, definitely fill out the application, tell me a little bit more about you, and we can hopefully hop on a call to see if we're a good fit for one another. This is Madam Speaker Says. I am your host, Machochodi, and I'm so grateful for you being here. And I'm also really proud of you. If only 8% of the people who suffer from a fear of public speaking, who do not have all of the emotional acuity to deal with attention coming at them, only 8% out of 75% who suffer from this actually seek out help. Oh my God, no wonder. No wonder the world is in the state that it's in, because the people who should be speaking up are not. And the Orangina crazy pants of the world are the ones who are dominating. We need to change that. And it begins with you. Again, thank you so much for being here. I hope I see you next week for the second part of this 3-part training. Hey, pull up. Just you and me for a second. Are you an exec, a founder, or an entrepreneur who's sick of shrinking in rooms you're overqualified to lead? It's time to stop playing small and start owning your expertise. But how, Machochodi? Girl, I got you. I offer coaching that helps women of color just like you to claim your place as a thought leader. Whether you want to command a room, craft and share your signature story, or finally get that book out of your head and onto bookshelves, I've got the strategy and spicy accountability that you need. If you're tired of seeing less qualified folks shine while you stay behind the scenes, girl, the wait list is open. Follow the link in show notes to stop waiting for permission and claim your VIP spot now. My mission? Helping women just like you to snatch the spotlight, shake the table, and take your damn seat at the top already. No begging, no detours, and nope, no apologies. Just bold ass moves.